Please call the roll.
Yes, Brockton. Plymouth, Lee Hartman.
Yes, present.
West Bridgewater, Meredith Anderson. Whitman, Dan Salvucci. Mastot, David Muller.
I'm here.
Mastot, Pam Hasner.
Here.
Pam. Brockton Area Transit, Glenn Geiler.
Present. Michael should be joining us shortly, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm here, sorry.
Hey, Pam. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Old Colony Planning Council, Mary Waldron.
Here. Good morning.
We do have a quorum present.
Thank you, Charlie. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment at this time? If so, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Seeing and hearing none. If you want to comment during the meeting, raise your hand. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of October 19th, 2021. Can I get a motion and a second from an MPO member to approve the minutes? And please state your name for the record.
Lee Hartman, I move it.
Mary Waldron, second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any comments, changes, questions, or suggestions? Seeing and hearing none. Charlie, please call the roll.
Yes, Plymouth, Lee Hartman.
Yes,
Brockton Area Transit, Glenn Geiler.
Yes.
Mastot, David Muller.
Yes.
Mastot, Pam Hasner.
Yes.
Old Colony Planning Council, Mary Waldron.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report from the Brockton Area Transit Authority. Do you want to wait till Mike gets here?
Would like to wait.
Okay, when Mike gets here, we'll go back
Thanks,
to this
David.
item.
Okay.
No worries. Next item is update from District 5.
You'll have to bear with me. I keep getting confused between my VPN and the non-VPN. That's why I was having trouble with the muting. So let me see if I can actually find these. I apologize. For some reason, I should know this after nearly 2 years. Okay, I have the status. Let me just open that up. The Pembroke Route 36 project, the bid opening is actually tomorrow. I have Stoughton, the intersection at this in 2023, the intersection at Central, Canton, and Tosca. We're expecting the PS&E in March. And Stoughton 138, which is also in 2023. There's a design public hearing that's scheduled February 16th. If anybody can attend, we'd love to have you. Look for comments. In 2024, Brockton intersection at Center Street and Plymouth Street, we have the 25% design under submission, under review. Sorry about that. I always really struggle with a Tuesday that's a Monday. Takes me a little while to warm up. In 2025, intersection improvements at Lyman, Grove, Summer, and the Grove Street Bridge. We have the bridge type study was reviewed, and we expect the 25s, the revised 25s in March, the end of March. Easton 138 at Elm Street, we're planning to schedule a utility site walk, and then a design public hearing will be held for that. And let me see what I have for 2026 Hanson corridor improvements on Route 14. We need to have a meeting with the town. There's an issue, which I think I've mentioned before, with the water line, and the pavement treatment will be a key factor on that. And it's a very old water line, so we have some concerns with, it's over 100 years old, with how, if that would be impacted negatively during the project. So we're trying to work out the details with the town on that one. And I think the Water Commission, it's not within the town of Hanson, so it gets a little complicated. Also in 2026, intersection improvements and Abington, Hancock and Chestnut. We had a common resolution meeting and we're expecting the revised plans later this month. And Duxbury signal improvements at Route 3 and 3A. There was a kickoff meeting in November and we're waiting for a schedule.
Pam, any questions for Pam? Seeing and hearing none, I believe Mike Lambert has joined us. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, Mike, it's up to you to talk about Brockton Transit area transit.
Thank you, Chair. Something I am well practiced at. So first of all, thanks to MassDOT that received a number of grants through the Community Transit Grant Program to provide subsidies for our Avon Stoughton service, our Rockland Flex service, and some replacement vans. We're greatly appreciative of the support. In general, things are continuing very similar to how they have for the past few months. December actually showed an improvement in terms of year-over-year ridership. We're close to about 60% of where we were pre-COVID. And we continue to work very closely with our employees and workforce to make sure that boosters, PPEs, rapid tests are all available on an as-needed basis. And that is my report.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, what's next on our agenda, Charlie? Next up is the Transportation Improvement Program amendment or adjustment.
Chair, we do not have any action items for the MPO today.
Thank you. Next up is performance-based planning and MassDOT's proposed calendar year 2022 highway safety performance measure targets. Is this you, Charlie, or somebody from my shop?
I believe Derek Cravat's taking the lead on this one.
All right, Derek, when you're ready.
Yep, sounds good. Charlie, are you able to make me a kind of co-host so I could share the screen?
Sure, that'd be Sean.
Yep, 1 second, please. Post.
All right, perfect, thank you. Can folks see this okay?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. So I just have a sort of a brief presentation here to describe the 2022 safety performance measures that MassDOT has developed. So just for some context on the performance measures, in 2016, Federal Highway Administration passed regulation that required state DOTs and MPOs to track progress toward meeting a variety of different goals. The three overarching categories of performance measures in that regulation were safety, or what they call kind of performance measure area 1 or PM1. PM2 is maintaining pavement and bridge condition, and PM3 is kind of a catch-all for system reliability, freight movement, tracking emissions, and things of that nature. But for the purposes of this presentation, we'll just be discussing the PM1 or safety performance targets, because those are required by the regulation to be endorsed by all MPOs at the end of February of each year. So within the safety category, there are 5 different performance measures that are tracked. Within the sort of realm of fatalities, there's a total 5-year average of fatalities taken for the past 5 years. And then the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. There's also a count of serious injuries over the past 5 years, as well as the rate of serious injuries. And then there's a combined indicator for non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So these are things like injuries of bicyclists and pedestrians, as well as other users of assisted mobility devices or wheelchair users, all kind of come under that category of the performance measure. So for the purposes of this target setting exercise that's written into the regulation, MassDOT, mostly the traffic safety section within MassDOT in coordination with others, especially the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security on the state level, as well as folks, I think, from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, come together each year to look at the data and then project that out to the sort of target year for the federal exercise, which is this year, 2022, to make a projection. I'll preface all of this by saying that the long-term goal for all fatalities and all measures is zero. MassDOT is a vision zero state, but for the purposes of this exercise, just follow the federal guidance to project out what seems to be most realistic for the target year, using the most recent year of available data. So for this exercise, to set the 2022 number, the most recent available data was from 2020. So that was used, 5-year averages were taken and documented. So you can see going back to the 2008 to 2012 period, and then projected out and using the most recent 5-year average of 354 from 2016 to 2020, that was taken to develop the 2022 number of 340 to report for 2022. And then that math was kind of taken to do the rate of fatalities for showing a 0.56 per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And I think the thing to note here is that because of some of the strange circumstances surrounding travel patterns in 2020, as part of this exercise, the 2020 data were kind of disregarded, and 2019 was used as sort of a flat line, just given some of the conditions that aren't likely to be replicated in the future, just given some of the uncertainty associated with the pandemic. So that was part of that exercise, but nonetheless showing a decreasing trend line as a goal to reduce fatalities and the rate of fatalities across the state. Similarly, for total serious injuries, which is kind of the second overarching category in this performance measure area, 5-year averages were taken going back to 2008 to 2012, and then projected out using a trend line. And when we do that exercise for total serious injuries, again, kind of taking a decrease from the 2019 data to reflect the goal of decreasing total serious injuries. The number of kind of a 3% reduction was used, and then a 4% reduction from 2021 to 2022 to calculate the target of 2,504 for 2022 and 4.11 for the rate in this area. So those are the kind of numbers that are getting reported. And then for the total combined non-motorized injuries and fatalities, 5-year averages again were used. We could see this was kind of increasing between 2008 to 2016, but then began to decrease, which is of course the direction we want to be going in. And when we project out this data, it's showing 471 as a total combined fatalities and serious injuries projected for 2022 statewide, and that is the number getting reported for 2022. So again, this includes pedestrians, bicyclists, and other kind of non-motorized users. So those are the 5-year targets. This is just showing the summary. The sort of middle column there is showing the 2021 number that was reported, and then the column on the right is showing the 2022 target. So these are the sort of numbers just in summary form that MassDOT has identified. So 340.56, 2,504, 4.11, and 471. Those are actually what's getting submitted to Federal Highway Administration as kind of the MassDOT targets for safety across these categories. And I think we have some regional data to show as well, just in table form. Just call your attention to kind of the top row in each of these categories might be the easiest to sort of digest, just to show that I think the regional data for the Old Colony region does generally follow the same trends that we're seeing statewide. So if you look at total fatalities that had gone down from 25 to 23 between 2019 and 2020. Similarly, we see a decrease in total serious injuries as well as in the non-motorist numbers as well. So that's just to say that the regional data are sort of mimicking the statewide data within the Old Colony region. And then the sort of ask of the MPO today is to either endorse MassDOT safety targets. The option also exists for the MPO to establish their own region-specific targets, but that would involve kind of an exercise on Old Colony planning staff to develop a methodology and submit that to Federal Highway by the end of February 2022. In the past, the MPO has endorsed MassDOT statewide targets, which you can see in that second bullet point, just signals that the MPO is committed to using the regional planning process to help advance some of the statewide safety goals and the statewide targets. So it's just acknowledging that the regional process is one piece of the larger total, and that is being kind of endorsed with the vote to endorse the statewide targets. So with that, I think I'll turn it back to the chair to, I think, ask for a motion on either endorsing the statewide targets or establishing region ones, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Derek. Any questions for Derek before we take a motion?
I had a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Are those percentage reduction targets, are they based purely on past trends or any other factors?
So the percentage reductions, I think it's mostly on past trends, although there was discussion sort of surrounding what might be anticipated in the future. I don't think there was an exact science to it, but I know that I'd encourage folks to check out our strategic highway safety plan that talks a lot about different strategies that are being used and trying to account for contextual factors like the new hands-free driving law and things like that. All of that was kind of taken into account to be thinking about what the most realistic rate might be. But yeah, it was sort of a combination of trying to use subjective factors like that and the actual quantitative data to develop those rates.
Charlie, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair Mueller. So Derek, you mentioned the Strategic Highway Safety Plan. I understand there's a 2018 edition, but efforts have commenced on developing the 2023 Strategic Highway Safety Plan. How can MPO members perhaps participate in providing input into that process?
Yes, that's a great question. I think there's actually a meeting that's been scheduled that I believe is open to all MPO members. It's a pretty wide invitation list, as I've seen. So I can certainly share that with you, Charlie. It's like a kickoff meeting for the next Strategic Highway Safety Plan. I know a number of municipalities and regional planning agencies are all on the invite list. So I can send that to you, and perhaps you could send that around. I'll also put in the chat the link to the most recent update for the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and there's some instructions on the website there for how folks can comment on that process or get involved.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the safety targets as presented today? In a second, and for the record, please state your name when you make the motion.
Lee Hartman, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mike Lambert, second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Charlie, please call the roll.
Brockton, Brady Winston,
Yes.
Plymouth, Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Brockton Area Transit, Michael Lambert,
Yes.
MassDOT, David Mueller,
Yes.
MassDOT, Pamela Hasner,
Yes.
Old Colony Planning Council, Mary Waldron.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Charlie. What's next on our agenda? High priority screening assessment. Is this you, Charlie, or someone on your team?
This will be a quote Cheng Li.
Whenever
Good
you're
morning.
ready.
Hi, good morning. My name is Guo Zhangli, Principal Transportation Planner with OCPC. I'm very excited to provide you an update on high priority corridor study screening assessment on behalf of OCPC project team. So next please. Our project reached 1/4 of our timeline for the project development milestone. So high priority corridor study provides integrated standalone process, not only focusing on the process of selecting future corridor studies, but also an outcome for the project ranking based on our 9 category of performance criteria. So for today's meeting, we will talk about the project itself. I will also provide the project evaluation criteria matrix framework for your review. I will also provide the evaluation, what method used, what data source they are. In the end, I will provide the timeline and the product from this project. And I will leave about a couple minutes for Q&A in the end. Next, please. So we have a very clear goals and objective coming to this performance project evaluation. So it is performance based. We have a specific and quantifiable criteria for corridors evaluation. It is data driven, unbiased, and based on the facts. Thanks to all the rapid advancement for big data technology, we were able to use most of them in-house and provided by a MassDOT with licensing with MassDOT. It is a multimodal planning process. We consider all transportation mode, not only the motorized transportation modes. It is comprehensive and inclusive. So that will require a constant update probably every year, and we will provide information into next long-range transportation plan. We are fully supported with state and federal performance measure targets and policies. Next, please. Coming into the project, we discussed a lot of assumption in-house. First of all, the purpose of this project is not to provide future transportation improvement list. It is a process to determine what are those high priority corridors locations based on our criteria. So we are concerned of the complete network in OCPC region, but we are only focusing on the major and minor arterial roads. We understand it is the project is based on the data, but we're also aware of the accuracy and error of the data. So we develop in-house travel demand model, and we use synchro and sync traffic to verify those data. In terms of the process, like I pointed out earlier, it's very important. It's an incremental, continuous, and inclusive. So it does require constant update and the in-house review. The process is completely transparent. We will provide a technical report, and we will provide all the data processing and the documentation for open resource and public review. So overall, the project, we aim to provide information for equitable and effective decision making. Next, please. We have very clear scope of our geographic area. Sorry. So based on the 2020 road inventory report, we have over 4,000 lane miles in our region. Our focus is on the arterial. On the screen, you can see on your right-hand side is the map of our region. The red line is indicating the principal arterial, while the blue line shows the minor arterial. Next, please. This is the evaluation criteria matrix framework. So you can see we include the very basic condition for all the corridors. I'd like to point out that in the basic condition, we also include the future traffic with travel demand model results. So what that means is the future condition, such as travel time and traffic volume, will be considered into the evaluation process. We have 9 general categories for evaluating the project. The capacity and safety are the very fundamental ones that we have been using for a long time. In this evaluation process, we include BICAMPAT, climate resilience, criticality factor, transit equity, and implementation potentials. And lastly, not the least, is the physical condition. I'm not going to bore you down to the details in this presentation, but we will include all this in detailed technical report. Next, please. Like I mentioned earlier, we will develop our own in-house travel demand model and synchro analysis in the process. A couple other resource comes from RITIS MS2. They were provided by MassDOT. Also, Impact 2 is for the crash data portal. We will review the crashes pattern and detailed information through this platform. We also use Google Traffic Archive data, which is free to the public. And we also use the GeoDot, the GIS data portal as well. Next, please. I just want to show an example how we use the RITIS data in the process. I select a location right in our office area. So if you can see on the map on the right-hand side, I apologize, a little bit blurry, but it shows other principal arterial roads, such as Route 27, Route 28, and Route 123. They are congested. This is just a random day in August, Wednesday in August 2019. So with this information, it helps us to determine where are those congestion bottlenecks. On the left hand of the screen is the detailed location description for the congestion issues. Next, please. In next couple months, staff will be developing the GIS database for the evaluation process. We will also update the travel demand model and use synchro and sync traffic to verify the congestion issues. The final project will be selected by May of 2020 this year. And we plan to provide a technical report, maps, and result summaries by June 2020. So overall, the project will be completed by September 30 this year. Next. I've used a couple acronym in this presentation, and this is for your reference. Next, please. Thank you. That concludes my presentation today. The project contact, including myself and Ray, if you have any question, please reach out to us.
Thank you. Any questions for the members at this time? Seeing none, so we will see you guys back in May or June, is that right?
Pam has a question.
Oh, Pam, I'm sorry, thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Just a comment. I think this information will be very valuable for not only developing future TIP projects, but even smaller improvements that the communities can take on once they can see where there are issues, whether it be congestion, safety, or complete streets. And I think there'll be some very good information that can be developed from this.
Thank you, Pam, for your comments.
And if I could just weigh in, there were a couple comments in the chat. Steve had said, hey, folks, I have a question for the MassDOT person. In your studies, are they breaking out accidents that occur with persons with disabilities, especially around curb cuts?
Yes, so in this, so if Charlie can or Sean can show the matrix table. So this criteria has come from a long list of potential issues for project evaluation. It does provide the input for ADA, bicycle and pedestrian walkability and accessibility, and that it's a comprehensive. So we will give score to like I said, any accessibility to pedestrians.
Thanks, Guo Cheng. And then Dave, if I could, just the other comment is from Charlie goes, and again, it's thank you to MassDOT for the advertisement of the Route 36 TIP project in Pembroke. And the bid opening is January 19th, which is this week.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, we'll see you guys back, I think, in July, right?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Oh, not
Is
yet.
there-
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Charlie, what's next on our agenda? Administrative matters. Are there other matters? And Charlie, when's our next meeting?
That's actually the last part of this administrative matters update. We're getting to it, but we do have a couple items to report to the MPO on.
Okay.
John, yep. So first and foremost, we have a letter from Mayor Sullivan of Brockton to Secretary Jamie Tesler, talking about the importance of investing in the modernization of the Old Colony rail system. Mayor Sullivan had pointed out a couple items that perhaps could be looked at. One is the fare structure. Number two is the track capacity constraint in the Dorchester area. And then the long-term improvements such as that were identified in the Transit Matters report of modernizing the Old Colony system, which I believe were articulated in the MBTA's Focus 40 plan that talked about the electrification in the long term of the Old Colony line. So that's item number one. Next slide. Item number two is a webinar later today at 12 o'clock, hosted by APA Massachusetts Housing and Community Development Committee, and it's a conversation about the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504. This is a webinar for communities that will talk about developing ADA transition plans, and hopefully it'll talk about some funding sources, not only for transition plans, but also on the implementation side for projects. Next slide. MassDOT has announced the next round of the Shared Streets program. Applications are due March 1st of this year. And as in years past, it's open to municipalities and regional transit agencies. Next slide, please. Closing in a couple weeks is the next round of the Mass Trails grant program. So anybody interested in forming trails, rail trails, system improvements, this is a good opportunity to investigate this funding source. Next slide. To Chairman Muller's question of when the next meeting is, here's a menu of upcoming meetings. The MPO has meetings set for the third Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. And the next meeting will be February 15th. And for the MPO's information, as you all know, that we're into the heavy development of the 3C certification documents. That includes the Transportation Improvement Program and the Unified Planning Work Program. So throughout these months, the MPO will be reviewing and crafting these documents. Tentatively scheduled in April will be a review and release of the draft TIP. And then in May, the MPO will reconvene, hear public comments, and consider endorsement of the TIP. And just backing up a little bit, I should say that in March, the MPO will be reviewing and discussing and debating preferred scenarios for the TIP, and that would be an action item in March. So that's what we have for items as of right now. And turn it back to Chairman Muller.
Thank you, Charlie. Is there anyone from any other items that come before the MPO at this time? Seeing and hearing none, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn? Please state your name for the record.
Lee Hartman, move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Mary Waldron, I'll do it right this time. I second that.
Thank you. Without objection, we are adjourned. See you all in February. Thank you so much. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.